I don't know whether or not to say anything because it is a little embarrassing.
I thought he was extremely cocky.
I was an asshole.
Yeah, that girl quit because of Randy.
Sorry.
Randy Orton has had his share of dark backstage moments, but only a few people know the true extent of Orton's lack of professionalism. No other wrestler has had more scandals and has crossed more boundaries than Orton. Fans love him for the RKO and his distinct charisma, but behind the scenes, he was often aggressive and arrogant. From prison time to drug abuse, from theft to sexual affairs. In this documentary, we will shed some light on the dark side of Randy Orton.
Well, you're not here to make friends, we're here to make money. There's a lot of drugs were involved too. I am Randy Orton. You want to look cool?
I'm always
Say it to my face. Why are you turning red? I'm serious.
I'm always cool.
I'm serious. I'm serious. No, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
Randy Orton grew up in Florissant, Missouri, as a rebel, a bad boy. At 𝗗𝗢𝗣𝗣𝗬𝗥𝗚𝗚 High School, he would bully his classmates and get into fights that, more often than not, he would win. Randy's teachers had a hard time setting boundaries for the young man. His aggressive behavior and cocky attitude earned him a reputation as the school's problem child. On the other hand, there was a unique charm about his confidence that made him irresistible to girls. Randy's wrestling DNA first showed when he started training as an amateur in high school. His father, Bob Orton, used to wrestle in the 1970s and 80s. His grandfather, Bob Sr., is also considered a legend in the sport. After his graduation in 1998, Randy felt directionless. He and his friends would drive around, getting wasted, shooting empty beer cans in the wood, then head to the bar for more drinks, to play pool and pick up women. 2 years went by like that before Randy grew tired of the same bars, the same drinks, and the many different but same women every night. Something was missing in his life. He needed a challenge. At 18, Orton joined the Marines and left his hometown and many a girlfriend. When his mother asked him why, he replied, "Because I like weapons." He enlisted for 4 years. But after the first days of boot camp, Orton reached his limits. Not physically, but socially. His arrogance soon started to annoy the other recruits, and his short temper got him into fights on a regular basis. And while he may have won those fights in high school, the future Marines were a different caliber. Some of them beat him up pretty badly. Later, Orton said he was bullied and mistreated on a regular basis by the Marines. The training itself was no walk in the park either. The drill instructors were very rough on him, and it was during this time that Orton learned something about himself that school could never teach him. He wasn't brave enough to die for his country, as he later admitted. All he wanted was out.
This is the part where I don't know whether or not to say anything because it is a little embarrassing. I looked into different ways on how you could get discharged.
He also admitted to faking an injury, pretending that he couldn't walk. Of course, it didn't work, losing him even more respect with the rest of the recruits and his superiors. On Valentine's Day 1999, Orton went AWOL, taking a 2-day bus ride home. Unauthorized absence is punishable within the military, but he didn't care. He went back home to Missouri, getting drunk with the boys and dedicating his time to the women at the bar. Orton's combat instructor reported his unauthorized absence, and Randy was advised that there would be severe consequences if he didn't return. Of course, he didn't return. A decision that got him sentenced by court-martial to 110 days in military prison.
And they take me straight to the brig. Now I'm in the brig, and it's like that first night was rough.
19-year-old Randy Orton sat silent in his cell, day and night, wondering what had gone wrong. He thought about his father, about being a wrestler, and about his grandfather, who had also made his living in the wrestling business.
Just, counting the days.
When the military finally released Orton after only 44 days, he was determined to talk to his father.
I went upstairs because I was living in my parents' basement. I said, Dad, is there any chance you think that I could be a WWE superstar?
Bob Orton warned his son about the wrestling business. He told him that a wrestler's life is a life on the road, a life without family. That being a wrestler often comes at the expense of one's marriage and children, because that's what his own life had been like. In an interview, Bob says he regrets having neglected his relationship with Randy.
When Randy was in school, and I'd fly home in the morning and out in the afternoon, of course, if it was during the school year, I wouldn't get to see him at all. I probably got to see him, gosh, this is going to sound horrible, but maybe 10, 12 days a year.
He tried to talk Randy out of it, but Randy didn't listen, and instead he wanted to become a wrestler. Shortly after his release from prison, Randy began working as a referee for an independent wrestling promotion in his area. He also worked night shifts at the gas station.
I work at a gas station, midnights, so I'm like a vampire, up all night, sleeping like pretty much all day. And then I start watching wrestling again.
And it just so happened that WWE was going to be in town. And I said, well, heck, I'll take you down, we'll get you introduced to everybody and see what happens.
Through his father's connections, Randy got a developmental contract with WWE and started getting into the family business. This is where he first met the diamonds in the rough that would later be known as John Cena, Brock Lesnar, and Batista.
I thought he was extremely cocky. He didn't know anything about the business when he got into the business, but he belongs in the ring. Cockiness aside, you couldn't ignore the undeniable talent.
I just saw this natural, pure, God-given ability that can't be taught.
He's gifted. He's truly gifted in the ring. And you could see that even when he didn't know anything or know what he was doing.
Orton was a natural. WWE officials saw his potential early on. Because of this, they often excused his unprofessional conduct. Some say Randy could get away with anything, that he was untouchable.
Randy Orton was the guy we looked at and said, okay, he's got all the tools, he's got the it factor, he's got everything.
The business is in his blood. Third-generation superstar. The man has every gift that a man can be given.
Backstage, he was losing popularity fast, especially because Triple H and Vince decided to push him through the roof as the newest member of Evolution.
You go from being a very popular guy in the locker room to being a very disliked guy in the locker room because, everybody's jealous of the spot. You're going to go from being nothing in a nothing spot, in essence, to being in the main events.
Assuming the position of a mentor of sorts, Triple H warned Randy. Other wrestlers might go out of their way to get him injured so they could take his spot. Not an uncommon strategy at the time.
People want to, AOP accidentally on purpose. I didn't mean, I'm sorry that I broke your elbow, that I dislocated your shoulder socket or that I did that. I didn't mean to do that. I guess that I'm taking your spot now.
Bob Holly was one of the veterans who didn't get along with Orton. Holly was known to come down hard on newcomers, testing their dedication to the sport by actually hurting them in the ring. Orton suffered through it, but later said he hated Holly for it. Over time, Randy Orton made a name for himself. His talent and skill were undeniable. He picked up on new moves and sequences quickly and made them look effortless and smooth in the ring.
Look out, Randy! And Randy Orton, the RKO! Beautiful! Out of nowhere!
Randy's ability in the ring, a lot of it, if you watch him move, he's just extremely smooth.
He's a thoroughbred, no doubt about it.
It's effortless.
He is destined for greatness.
Typical third generation guy. It's just something about him. Everything he does is just perfect.
The best natural talent that I've ever been in the ring with.
In a way, it reminds me of Shawn Michaels in the ring in that Randy does amazing things and makes it look like it just happened.
Randy Orton may be the man around here sooner than we think.
After his initial success with Evolution, Orton established himself as a top-level talent in WWE. At SummerSlam 2004, just 2 years after his debut, he won the World Heavyweight Championship, a personal milestone in his career, as well as a new WWE record. At 24, Orton became the youngest WWE World Champion in history, cementing his place at the top of the roster and earning respect from wrestlers and fans alike. His backstage reputation was strange. Stars like Triple H, Ric Flair and Batista loved working with him thanks to his natural talent and charisma. But some other wrestlers found his arrogance annoying and disliked him because of his knack for women.
Him and 𝗓𝗔𝗥𝗚𝗏 were good buddies. They were getting ass everywhere, and they were like hot smoking.
At that time, Orton often slept with female fans he found attractive. After the shows in hotel bars and clubs, it was often Randy Orton who took the most coveted women back to his room. The next day, he would sneak them into the backstage area, which only served to irritate his co-workers more.
It got so much heat on Randy because it was such sweet ass.
Orton also dated a long list of WWE wrestlers and employees. Early on in his WWE career, colleagues often saw him leaving the hotel room of Dawn Marie in the morning. He also had short affairs with Mickie James, Stacy Keibler, and Candice Michelle. Then Orton set his sights on Rochelle Lowen, a former diva who made herself unpopular with him on her very first day on the job, when Lowen said she didn't know who Randy Orton was. She didn't know who he was? Randy Orton, the superstar? Orton was furious and retaliated. Rumor has it that Randy defecated in her handbag. Lowen denied this, but didn't doubt that he had it in him to do such a thing. Actually, she said, Orton ruined her bag by emptying bottles of tanning lotion and body oil into it. Also, he reportedly stole and destroyed some of her valuables and continued to harass her until, on a flight to Alaska, it got so bad that Lowen saw no alternative than to leave the company. But that didn't stop Orton's misdemeanors. On a different flight, Amy Weber claims he knocked her to the ground with a powerful thrust of the hips. Maria Kanellis is another woman who, unfortunately, got to know this side of Orton.
For a while, Randy was rude to me, but I just continued to take it, nod my head, and go, okay, Randy, you're right. Okay, Randy, you're right. Okay. And then he was like, oh, this is boring. New girl!
And then, one day while riding together, Orton set off fireworks in the car, totally out of nowhere.
Randy decides to start shooting fireworks at us, and let me just say, that was one of the scariest moments of my life. because I thought the whole freaking car was gonna blow up like out of a movie or something. I was scared.
Orton's childish immaturity was no longer tolerable. He constantly squabbled backstage. He didn't make the tour bus on time, so Triple H often ordered him to his office to talk about his attitude and to put the young star in his place.
We had a very heated conversation about it, and Randy said, God, Hunter, I'm just, I'm young and I'm dumb. It's just me being young and stupid. And I said, okay, Randy, then tell me what the exact age is that you're not young and stupid anymore, because it's ridiculous and that's a bullshit excuse.
And there were consequences. As Orton later said, he had to give up his title because of his inappropriate conduct behind the scenes.
I had a rough start, but I knew I had to earn that respect amongst my peers. It's very important.
Well, I wouldn't call it confidence. I just called it Randy.
This kind of arrogance.
Randy was a cocky kid.
I was a bit of an ass.
In 2006, the WWE locker room saw many incidents that reflected unfavorably on Orton's self-control, until WWE signed him up for an anger management program in Atlanta. At first, Orton said it felt like he was just serving time, but later he actually learned some things that helped him change into a better man. In an interview with the WWE magazine, he said he wouldn't freak out anymore, which wasn't quite the case.
We were all sitting around a steak, and they brought our steak, but he literally picked up the steak with his 2 fingers. He goes, "What the hell is this?" to the waitress and tosses the piece of steak at her. Like throws a fresh steak right at him. He goes, "Get me a new one."
Really just sitting on top of the world. I'm making a lot of money for someone my age, and I'm living the dream. And I am a cocky son of a bitch.
A few months later, on the WWE European Tour, Randy Orton threw a tantrum so bad that officials sent him home. He trashed his hotel room, causing $50,000 worth of damage. The exact reason for this tailspin is unclear. Still, WWE continued to hold Randy in high regard. He was now one of the biggest stars of the company, and he was supposed to play the lead role in the movie The Marine 2. When WWE announced this, all hell broke loose. Members of the Marines who remembered Orton from his time at the School of Infantry stated that in their eyes, Orton was a disgrace, utterly unfit for the role of a Marine. Corporal Mike Vinn, who knew him personally, said, "I am disgusted that his name and the word Marine are being used in the same sentence, real or fake, because of the fact that he quit us, the country, and the Marine Corps. Randy, in the role of a Marine, is a disgrace to those that have worn and are wearing that uniform." The negative public response made WWE pull back and cast Ted DiBiase Jr. in the role instead. As it turned out, Randy's career didn't suffer much because of this. He continued to wrestle in the main event and performed so well and so consistently that there was no doubt he had reached the top of the wrestling mountain.
Around me, Randy was always very nice and respectful and worked very hard.
He had close relations with the right people backstage, because Vince McMahon really liked Randy.
If I knock on his door, peek my head in, 9 out of 10 times, no matter who's in there, he'll tell them to fuck off so that I can come in and talk to him, which is pretty cool.
The two had a very special relationship. Orton threw one of his infamous fits in front of Vince, who didn't seem to have a problem with it.
He's seen me in dark periods where I've had meltdowns, breakdowns in front of him, beat my head against the wall in front of him. I think he sees a little bit of my crazy in him.
Vince saw a part of himself in Randy. Even if something set him off in public, he simply could not restrain himself. As the name Randy Orton became more and more of a household name, the number and frequency of interviews grew rapidly.
The amount of media I'm asked to do. It gets crazy. It gets hectic. You know, your off days become like 10 radio stations, 3 news channels, a couple print ads.
The Viper, Randy Orton, is in studio with me. We've been waiting for this, man.
I have the Viper, Randy Orton.
Randy Orton stepping in, WWE Superstar.
The tough-looking dude sitting right next to us, wrestling superstar Randy Orton.
Orton would give as many as 10 interviews per day. He would struggle through them, but the risk of answering in an unprofessional or insecure manner made him extremely nervous.
I get more nervous for what we did this morning than I will for, you know, wrestling for 30 minutes in front of 80,000 people.
Oh, you're a hell of an awesome interview. Thank you. You are. He really is.
You joking?
Really, no, seriously. I've had a lot of people in here, Randy. You're awesome.
One time, during an interview with a Mexican news channel, Randy's dark side broke out for everyone to see. The news reporter kept teasing Orton with snarky questions and described him as fragile and injury-prone. But Randy didn't put up with it.
Pretty fragile. I mean, you have been injured in your clavicle, your arms, everywhere. Well, what happens? Just take it easy with that. No, that's really fragile.
Listen.
No. Hey,
You want to talk shit to me on your own show here and make you look cool? You want to look cool?
I'm always cool.
Say it to my face. Why are you turning red? I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm serious. No, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
Hey, take it.
Now say it again.
Hey.
Say it again. I dare you to say it again.
Randy.
Call me fragile. I will headbutt your teeth through your skull. Do you hear me?
Okay, don't just spit on me. That's not polite.
Say something funny again, boy. Say something funny.
I'm not trying to be funny.
I'm done.
That moment was not part of the show. To this day, the reporter doesn't speak well of Orton. During one fan interview, Orton got physical. Accused of being arrogant and conceited, he answered with a slap to the face. A similar incident occurred when Mr. Kennedy failed to execute a suplex safely. There was a big argument backstage. Orton yelled at Kennedy and accused him of being an unsafe and dangerous wrestler. Kennedy claimed it was Orton's fault because he had put too much force into the move with his legs. The two then avoided each other. There was no fight, but Orton talked to Triple H and Vince about it. Just 4 days later, Mr. Kennedy lost his job with WWE. Looking back, it's safe to say that Orton played a big part in Mr. Kennedy's firing. Kennedy himself says so. Allegedly, Orton ended up dragging John Cena into it too. They still can't stand each other. There's a laundry list of backstage conflicts involving Randy Orton. He even clashed with John Cena at one time.
I would get very upset with people very quickly. And, you know, I know that it grew on me like kind of as a reputation, even around work.
He was immature. He was getting into a lot of trouble. He was already arrogant.
I was an asshole, and maybe I would get respect that way. Maybe it was a little bit of fear, and I took it as respect, and either way, I was fine with it. I was just kind of a prick. Like, I wasn't necessarily everyone's favorite guy.
So how long do I gotta sit here? Seriously?
A particularly dark side of Randy Orton came to light through the Me Too movement. WWE writer 𝗚𝗙𝗢𝗚𝗥𝗚𝗚 claims Orton exposed himself to new writers and sexually harassed them. According to Bauer, Orton pulled out his large penis, first grabbed his genitals, and then said, "I'm Randy Orton, shake my hand." "Oh, you won't shake my hand? Are you rejecting me? This is damn wrong. Should I tell Vince and Steph you don't want to shake Randy Orton's hand?" He allegedly repeated this behavior throughout Bauer's time with WWE, which surprised Bauer since Orton never faced any sexual harassment complaints. When WWE was confronted about this, they stated they were looking into the affair. Whether this really happened, and if so, what happened exactly, is unclear.
Luckily, I was given a second, third, fourth chance, from Vince McMahon coming up when I would get in trouble.
Start going, That's the Rick Rude theory. Won't make it up. What's up, Jamie? Yeah, baby.
When Randy Orton meets new wrestlers, he musters them and tests their limits, just like Holly did with him. In an interview, Cody Rhodes talked about his first encounter with Randy Orton. Cody had a stitched-up cut on his face. When Randy drove him to the next show, he said Cody should hold his head out the window on the highway because that would help the cuts heal faster.
We're going about 80 miles per hour. I stick my head out the window and literally pop, pop, pop. Tuck my head back in the car and now blood is just running down my face.
Orton then took him to a strip club and lied to security that he knew the club owner, so he got a VIP parking space. Afterwards, Orton danced with the strippers and even endangered one of them when he tried to perform a wrestling move on her.
He picks up one of the young ladies on his shoulders. He goes, "Hey, you want to take an F5?" So there's a balcony, right? And he goes, "Whoa!" And like her feet are like dangling over the balcony. And then he pulls her back in.
At another show, Cody watched Orton once again tear through the hotel room. He ripped a urinal off the wall and giggled.
He had his hands around the urinal and he goes, "Hey, Code, look at this." And he yanked the entire urinal out of the wall. The entire, like a superhuman strength, plaster ripping off the thing, flood just sweeping out in the lobby, and he giggled.
The next day, there was a big meeting with all members of the tour squad. Hotel security was on site and asked who was responsible for the damage.
He walked up in front of everybody and said, "Hey, I want to know who did it." And it's like, this is amazing. This guy is nuts.
Another scandal happened during an autograph session. Randy Orton pointed out the package in his pants to a boy about 12 years old.
Check out the package. Nice, huh? All right. See ya. The editing people must hate me. Sorry.
But that was not the only scandal involving his fans. In 2007, police almost arrested Randy Orton for stealing from a fan. Two friends asked if they could take a quick picture with Orton. He replied that everyone wanted to take a quick picture with him, took the camera, removed the SD card and dropped the camera one floor down. However, there a passerby happened to catch the camera and returned it to the owner. When he realized the SD card was missing, he called the police. "He just wanted the card back," the fan said to the officer. In the end, they reached an agreement. Orton gave him a check over $100, signed with the words, "To dipshit." In a radio interview with a Phoenix station, Orton once again crossed the line and made himself unpopular with his colleagues. He claimed he could name 10 wrestlers Kelly had sex with. After publicly slut-shaming his colleague, Orton reaped harsh criticism of himself and his statements, as well as many conflicts and angry calls from fellow wrestlers. Following this, Randy apologized to Kelly in a public tweet. Using the same account, he later insulted an overweight fan on Twitter, calling him Miss Piggy. Yet again, backlash, followed by an apology.
Young and stupid is not an excuse anymore. If you know you're doing dumb stuff and your excuse is that I'm young and stupid, then you shouldn't be doing it because you know better. You're just using that as an excuse to be able to do it.
I couldn't have been that much fun to be around at a certain point, It's weird to talk about all this. There's a lot of drugs were involved too.
No matter how many boundaries Orton overstepped, somehow everything ended up working out for him, which only helped inflate his sense of ego even more. Then, one day his recklessness backfired so badly that it almost cost him his life.
I had these problems, I had these things in my life that I was doing that was, could potentially have killed me.
Randy Orton laid motionless on the ground when his girlfriend Samantha found him. Orton was unconscious. Sam called an ambulance, which arrived shortly thereafter and took Randy to the hospital.
Woke up in a hospital one morning, and my wife saved my life by calling an ambulance.
Randy almost died that day from an overdose. Unconfirmed reports suggest Orton had attempted to take his own life. Even sources within the WWE said as much at times, but it was never proven if that was true. One thing is for certain, however. His girlfriend Sam saved his life that night. Following the affair, Orton proposed to her with a ring valued at $99,000.
My wife has stuck with me, stuck by my side.
I would have felt guilty leaving because I was more afraid something would happen to him.
The two got married and had a daughter. Orton went to rehab to prepare for the birth of his child. He also had a Bible verse tattooed on him and found some measure of faith. In interviews, Randy says life as a family man changed him for the better. His love for his wife and daughter made him a more calm, reflective person.
And she has made me a better man.
But only a short while later, there were bad news. Samantha Orton filed for divorce in 2013. Her marriage to Randy had deteriorated beyond repair, and it wasn't hard to figure out why. Orton had been seen on a date with ring announcer JoJo Offerman, acting rather intimate. For a while, JoJo's was the only account Orton followed on Twitter. The 13-year age difference was frowned upon, and even backstage there were some hushed voices. Finally, Randy Orton left the woman who saved his life. A woman who was already afraid that he would leave her sooner or later.
I would always feel bad, but I loved him, so...
In the end, the words of Randy's father rang true. Life in the wrestling business really did come at the expense of his family.
I think in the month of February this year, I was home 4 days, maybe 5. It's tough to be gone so much.
After the divorce, Samantha was allowed to keep a $650,000 bank account, her $99,000 engagement ring, and sole custody of her daughter Alana. Randy pays $4,500 a month in alimony and retains the right to visit his child regularly. Orton's affair with JoJo was short-lived. It is clear looking back that Orton had cheated on his wife several times, including with wrestlers Layla and Kelly Kelly, and with his current wife, Kim. In an interview, Kim talks about how she met Randy. Her sons were fans of the Viper, and when she saw him on TV, she noticed his good look.
I'm trying to play it so cool. Yeah, I'm like, my name is Kim.
He actually went to her after the match and gave her the number of a security guard, who then got her number for him, and they went on a date the same evening. All this happened in 2012, when Randy was still married to Samantha. Randy and Kim are still together. They describe themselves as soulmates, share the same birthday on April 1st, and they have a daughter together named Brooklyn Rose. During his recent return to WWE, his family sat ringside and cheered for him. This new Randy Orton is a very popular Randy Orton. Many say he is changed. Looking back, Orton admits that he has made mistakes.
That was like my armor. I was a asshole, I think, because I wanted people to respect me.
Some of the shit that I was pulling, and some of it just dumb, immature kid shit.
It's hard to tell exactly how much Randy has changed. Has he really turned his life around? Has he gotten better at controlling his temper? Cody Rhodes, for one, doesn't think so.
I was told that Randy is like a family man now and doesn't get in trouble, and I won't have it.
There are still unpleasant incidents reported involving Randy Orton today. He criticized Kevin Owens for his looks and weight and treated him disrespectfully. Orton put obstacles in the way of Roman Reigns and is said to have tried to ensure that both Reigns and Seth Rollins were not going to be pushed anymore. He also had personal differences with Matt Riddle. Although they had good chemistry as a tag team, Orton simply did not like Riddle, because he did not show him enough respect. One thing is very clear. Randy Orton's dark side still exists today, but maybe it is less dark and better hidden. The youngest world champion of all time has become much more mature and professional over the years. But every now and then, his dark side still shines through.